Hello and welcome back to Radio Gamescast. As always, I'm your host Ryan, and I'm joined by a lovely duo of co-hosts, Alex and Brett.
I'm gonna get you.
This is part
Don't
2
let him.
of the first episode we did a while back about Expedition 33. This is the Spoilercast. We're going to spoil the entire game repeatedly and at random. So
And
if you haven't
casually,
played
with
the
no
game-
warning.
with no warning beyond this. There will be no more mention of spoiler warnings for the rest of this, so this is your chance to get out now if you don't want spoilers. The rest of this is just a spoiler discussion. We're going to be throwing basically just crap at the wall for an hour to 2 hours, however long it's going to take for us to hash out the plot of Expedition 33 and the narrative side of things in some detail. So I think with that, there's no further ado to give. I hope you're gone if you don't want spoilers. So how about that Gustav getting fucking obliterated?
Pretty fucking awesome.
Oh,
I
so good.
I feel like most people I've talked to have been the people that go like, oh, I saw it coming because he had parts of his UI that weren't filled out, and they totally had me by the balls.
Everyone had
I
parts
was
of
like,
their UIs that weren't filled out.
I was like, I don't know, those spaces will get filled in by like some kind of upgrade.
Yeah,
or
I figured it
whatever.
was going to be like you get a special arm upgrade or something.
Yeah, you get gear in these damn video games. He'll get something. He'll get fucking killed, apparently, and entirely replaced by a guy who plays completely different.
I think overall, I am a happier person not being able to instantly recognize death flags.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way: as soon as this is obviously the ending of Act 1. This is the beat. You're like, oh, we're gonna have a fun time collecting a rock, and whoops, so one
Helping
of
our
our
big
characters
wine
gets
bag
obliterated. Yeah, so I think the thing that got me with it is I suspected something was going to happen to Gustav for the reasons that a lot of people are. I'm very genre savvy with RPGs in general, having played many, many, many of them. So getting into the bit where like Gustav and Mael are the only two that have closed off portions of their UI at that point, I'm like, something's going to happen to both of them. Either they're going to get hurt and there's going to be a change, or they're gonna get upgrades, which is what I figured would happen. I was more on the side of they're gonna get like a boost or something. So I was like, oh, Gustav's gonna get like his mechanics kind of simple and it relies on a single skill, so he'll probably get like a special thing that's like skill agnostic or whatever later. Is what I thought was gonna happen. But as soon as that scene started in the framing, I was like, okay, yeah, Gustav's dead.
Like, oh, neat touch angle. Who's dying?
As soon as those happened, because the thing is with Mael, you kind of, I think the way they frame her character for most of the game, you know that she can't be the one to die, because it isn't the most emotionally impactful thing, right? At any point, because Mael is like, if Mael stops, the rest of the party stops functioning, and that's a problem in the narrative of the game. So I think it's clear that early on Mael's not going to die, at least like at the point that Gustav is in danger. So you end up with this like really tense scene that I think is super well handled. And certainly rivals the scenes that I'm sure inspired it.
Oh, for sure. Because like you never, all these games or whatever that say like,
and you know what?
we should.
This is the only other spoiler warning I'm going to give. This is the only other spoiler warning I'm going to give. We're going to fly fast and loose with JRPG references and spoilers here. Be aware that we're probably going to spoil a couple of Final Fantasies a little bit in this discussion.
And other games, too.
And possibly
Wyatt,
other
don't
games.
Yeah,
Hopefully
especially
already
Wyatt
isn't
don't
watching
watch
this because
this.
he finished Expedition 33. Namely, probably Final Fantasy VII is, I think, exactly what we're about to get into. But, yeah, there's a lot of other JRPGs with similar things. And I think to say that I think Expedition 33 handled it exceptionally well.
Yeah, seriously.
And that it's not immediate. Act 1 is long-ish. Like, it's a pretty lengthy amount of time before you transition to Act 2. There's optional stuff.
And I think too, just like the way, a lot of times it's like really weird to go back and look at a game and be like, okay, these little blocky Lego guys are like acting sad and fucking that Sephiroth just kind of like descends with his sword shape that doesn't make sense to stab
Yeah.
downward at all, and just like kills Aerith like in a really awkward way. But it's like, damn, dude, like I'm feeling it. It's like really weird to see something with modern like uh directing
Yeah.
standards like go for something like that and really just nail it.
It's also
And I
fascinating
was
because, like, to bring up the Aerith scene in particular, and this is mild spoilers for Remake, Intergrade, Rebirth, whatever it is. Uh, the timeline of the part of Final Fantasy VII that Rebirth covers is up until that moment in the original story. And I'm not going to spoil what happens because it's the finale of the game. So I'll leave it open to be like, you see whatever you want to see, right? Like, I'm not going to spoil the ending of that game. But to speak to it in reference to Expedition 33, I think it's fascinating how that being the finale of Rebirth, how they handle the shot composition and the sequence of things afterwards compared to Expedition 33, because Expedition 33 still has 2/3 of the game left.
yeah.
At the point that Gustav dies in Rebirth, that point, whether or not Aerith is alive or dead, they can leave it kind of ambiguous because it's the end of the game. Like, you can't keep playing past that point in Rebirth because it's going to boot you back out to before you entered the final dungeon. So it's really interesting to see the handling of a similar concept scene because it's very different.
Yeah,
I'd say a
very
little
different.
sloppier in Rebirth. Maybe not. I don't think it's as bad as some people have said it is. But I think there's a vocal group that doesn't like how Rebirth handles that sequence of events and the result of it. But I think in general, I get what they were going for, and I think it's going to be better in the quote unquote Act 3 of FF7, which will be the final game in that series of remakes coming out. But yeah, it's fascinating to think about that in relation to how Expedition 33 handles its multiple twists on that level.
Yeah.
Oh,
For
so good.
something that they were pretty vocal about saying what games they were influenced by before development and in like post
Mhm.
release interviews and stuff. They really went out of their way to actually like do some of the things that Final Fantasy VII, Chrono Trigger, sorry, and like other games that are classics from that era do in like the weird like party composition gameplay stuff that we talked about last time, how all the party members are like actually they try to make them play differently as opposed to just being
Yeah.
all one like turn-based
Mhm.
thing. And even like story wise with this crazy, I mean, I'll call it a twist because I don't really think like anyone went into the game expecting like the guy on the box
No, it's a
to
twist for
to be
sure.
killed.
Oh,
um
the special edition of the game, the Gustav edition.
yeah.
Yeah, it's also
It's like
go ahead.
you
Go
just
ahead.
never expect people to do that in a game
The fact that it's a
anymore.
protagonist is like, so the thing that my favorite Final Fantasy, and I know this isn't everyone's favorite, but it's the one that I grew up playing the most. I played a lot of 10, but the one that really resonated with me first was 12, because 12 was the one that I got like right at the right age where I was really into JRPGs. Final Fantasy 12, and I would say this isn't really a spoiler because this is the prologue of the game. It's not much of the game
It's
at
like the
all. It's a
first 30
tutorial.
minutes, yeah.
The first 30 minutes of the game, you play as the main character's brother. And then you get
Yes.
brutally killed by someone who looks exactly like a party member that you find down the line. And it creates this like central mystery of why Vaughn is invested in the story of this world and all this right at the start. And like, there's a lot of things you can say about FF12 in that Vaughn is a weird protagonist because he isn't the protagonist. He's
Yeah.
like the protagonist is other characters that join your party later, but it is really fascinating to have that like parallel here, and I have a feeling that we're going for that because that moment in FF12 landed really well at the time, and I think
Yeah.
is generally regarded as a very well played out scene. They'll have to show Alex after this, I think, to show how cool it was and like
I would love
the
to.
bits
This
of
is getting me
inspiration I
back
get from
into.
this.
I
This
really
is
hope I
not an
can repair
this is not an
my
FF12
attention
episode.
span enough to play more Final Fantasy games because the only one I've played is 6. I've seen playthroughs of 7 and things,
I
and
mean, 6 is
that's
great. Yeah, there's quite a
way
few
back
good
It's
when.
just
ones.
really good. I think you would love 12, honestly, Alex. If you can wrap your head around the
Yeah,
crazy gameplay, I think you'd love that world and story a
12's
lot.
awesome.
This is not a 12 episode, but it was really up your alley, I feel like. It's
Yeah.
a very, very Star Wars prequelian world,
Ooh.
and it's very
I mean, the
cool.
plot of 12 is literally the original trilogy of Star
Yeah, it
Wars,
is.
but in Final
Oh, the
It's also
original.
Fantasy.
cool.
Yeah. The setting's a little bit more prequely, but the actual structure of Final Fantasy 12 is very much just Star Wars. It's really good. Um,
Neat.
yeah, but like not an FF12 episode, but I bring that up to mention that like that's the closest thing I can think of to a specifically RPG. There are other games that have done killing the protagonist, but specifically a long form RPG with character progression and like skill trees and all the stuff that winds together. Just going, okay, nope, this character that you've been playing as not in the game anymore, just gone.
Yeah.
And I'll
And there's
say
nothing
up
you can do about it.
up
I
until
missed getting cosmetics for
into Act
Gustav
3.
because I forgot about a one gestural merchant on a beach. I was like, and I'm going through like Act 2 and Act 3 of the game, thinking, what other party
No, I
member
found a
am I
merchant.
missing?
It's great because if you go back to that merchant, it says find this expeditioner to get these items. And
Yeah!
I can't
Yeah,
find
it's
them.
like,
anymore.
bro,
They're
I
gone."
had him. He was right there.
But like I was mildly convinced up until Act 3 that he'd come back at some point. I was like, oh, I feel like maybe we'll get him back in some form.
Yeah.
Nah, not after
You
Act
kinda
3.
want him to
No,
come back, too, 'cause he's such a...
hey, depending on what ending you pick,
It
maybe.
depends on the ending, which
I
we'll get into
guess,
the
yeah.
ending
True.
in a little bit. But yeah, the handling of the Act 1 twist ending I think is great. It falls into a category for me of, and this is what I was going to say earlier, it falls into the category of what I would call a game changer, which is, this is a term that someone else used far earlier than me, talking about things that I've just fully lifted. So what that functionally means is it's like there's twists and then there is game changers, which reframe how you think about the world and like the entirety of the game. Gustav dying is a game changer because at that point it reframes the stakes of the game, like what is going on. Even though it's a very brutal world, now you're like, oh, I can't take any party member for granted here. And then there's a second one that's far more major at the end of Act 2.
Yeah.
But it's
Well, it's like,
fascinating.
there's two. There is a twist and then there's a game changer in very short order, I think. at
There's a
the end of
couple.
Act 2.
Yeah, like Expedition 33 is and twists are nothing new to JRPGs, right? Like but I think this is my favorite thing about Expedition 33 overall is the pacing. It's paced so well. There is very little downtime. You have your camp, which is kind of the equivalent, but it's also kind of like a method of viewing these story scenes that are important. Every bit of the story that is used incredibly well, and you don't end up with any lingering threads, which is impressive considering there's a couple of there's a lot of people have dealt into like cut content for the game. There's a few things that are relatively major pieces of cut content that are still kind of visible in the game, but you don't feel that coming out of it. Like every cut that they made was very intelligent because none of it kind of affects the overall story. With maybe one exception, which I'll mention now because it's kind of the early one. The only plot hole in this game is how the fuck Gustav gets to where he is at the very start.
Yes,
because
then you
that part of the
see
game seems to have been cut out at some point.
And then there's like some weird stuff that I think people have gone into with when you can see it in the overworld map. It's like, okay, he would have taken this corridor.
Yeah,
but
because the Dark Shore, which is the
that's the
landing point
Dark
of
Shore, okay.
Expedition 33, is visible. Like you can visit it, and there's a few enemies there to fight. You fight the big hand guys, but that's the connection point to where the meadow is that Gustav wakes up in. There's like a whole bit of that area that got cut out that was probably meant to be the tutorial area, I'd guess, at the start. For whatever reason, that got skipped, and then you meet people as you go middle way through, which I think works better for the game. But it's the only thing that I'd say is like a plot hole is not the right word because it can make sense. Like it's not like it doesn't make sense if you think about it. It's more that there's clearly events that happened that we just didn't see.
Yeah.
And the characters.
I think
didn't
It's
see.
almost like
my suspension of disbelief was twisting it in a way that's like, okay, like they just got to a shore Gustav wakes up near a waterfall, he was probably either like blown away or swiped aside into a stream or some type of.
See, I took it a little bit differently. I thought that Gustav literally died at the start, and then for some reason woke up at that waterfall because the fade out of that cutscene is him getting blasted by a never. So you're like, I was like, he died, and for some reason is back. Gustav Christ be praised.
Gustav Christ.
No, this was back. This was back when I still thought he was unkillable. I'm just like, he just go watch down the river. No.
Yeah, no, I was very wrong on that. I think it's just a missing thing. But yeah, overall, the handling of the pace, especially, really kept me going really well. And there's not going to be a ton of us talking about gameplay in this, I think, just because there's a lot to go through with the story. But there's a little bit of gameplay stuff.
We went through so many systems in the first.
Yeah, we gave all our systems overviews and stuff. But the thing that I like to egg on with the pacing thing is that they pace out the types of upgrades you get access to. So, like, you get access to Luminas for certain builds in area sequence so that you're not overwhelmed. But you'll get very basically at the start, you get like a Mark build, right? So you get like the Luminas for a Mark build that works really well. You'll get the Luminas for a burn build that Mael or Lune can do very early on. You get Luminas related to healing. Then later on, you get the complicated stuff, like, you invert yourself at the start. At the start of the match.
You invert yourself. Blow up your entire party member. Get all the single fighter buffs.
But what I love is they tend to give you everything that you need for a build in sequence, and then they'll give you a final upgrade in the end game when you are exploring. There'll be like final bits for each archetype that you can find that will take them to the next level of, like, now you have a burn build that can escalate itself to infinity and stuff like that. It's just very fun. Bits of like gameplay building on.
It's stuff like that too that makes the, like, I love Elden Ring a lot, but exploration in Elden Ring is like a 50-50 because you might get something really cool that works for you, or you might get something that will work for your 8th playthrough when you're finally doing the dex int build for that weapon, or you'll just get a red leaf or something that is just completely useless unless you're like going crazy crafting. And in Expedition 33, they've because this still goes into why pacing is so good, because it's a game, so not only does the story have to be well paced, but the actual gameplay should be too.
Yes.
They've diluted the loot pool so expertly that, like, you're not getting, okay, here's 50 more high potions. I'm already on X potions, dude. That's gonna heal like 1/10 of my character's health. I'm not gonna use any of those. I'm gonna sell them on any whatever. Like, you don't have to worry about that. They just give you stuff that, like, at the only exception of it being useful or whatever is if, like, okay, I'm not using this build on this character. But, like, it still doesn't feel
the
like
benefit
useless.
of that is, like,
why would I explore?
I like the Elden Ring comparison you made, because Elden Ring does a very similar approach to item spreading. The problem with Elden Ring's approach, and I like Elden Ring quite a lot, but I do think this is an issue with it, is that, like Brett said, you can get items that just are really cool, but you just can't use them because your character's built differently. Expedition 33 has a respec system that takes resources that get gradually more accessible as the game goes on, but you have enough at the start that it's not a concern if you have to do it.
They are so plentiful.
Yeah, like, you will end up with more than enough. I think I ended up with like 50 of these after having used them quite a few times. Like, I didn't skimp on using them. So you have the ability to respec pretty readily, should you need to. And that means you get to play with all the new toys that you get a lot more readily than something like Elden Ring.
I think I keep on finding that I am very stubborn in play styles that I get accustomed to in RPGs. I kept, oh god, what was it? I think I kept the Lancerum blades for Verso for a really long time. Also because I didn't I did something weird where it's like there's some, this would have required quite a bit of forethought in me Googling things where it's just like, okay, no, you need to end this competition on this specific character to get the best weapon in the game. I didn't do that.
You can get those weapons otherwise. You're not locked out of it if you don't do it like that. But yeah, I used the Dualiso for most of it, which was the Dueliste weapon that you get for Verso. It does like
which such a fun boss. Oh my god!
Your attack, but you attack twice. It's very fun.
Yeah. Which unfortunately doesn't stack with the Picto that has Picto Lumina that has you attack twice.
The Lumina's the effect. The Picto is the item.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get lots of really cool gear progression. There's tons of cool in-game areas. The like whole super boss loop in the end game is really well thought out, because the kind of quote-unquote downside of that pacing thing, and it's really up to you if you consider this a downside or not, is that Expedition 33 is a game that you can complete in a reasonable amount of hours. I would say most people will finish this between like 40 and 60 hours, and for a JRPG, that's a pretty good amount, right? Like that's.
I think I hit. I need to check my. I think I need to check my timing. I think I hit around 90 because I was also doing a bunch of the cleaning up all the loose ends that I could do, doing everyone's side story that I could do to the maximum extent that I could in Act 3. Trying to find. I was wandering around the open world a lot, trying to find those little paintbrush kids. As well.
The Gestrels.
There was that trying to go up against bosses. There was some part in it, and I remember asking you, Brett, about this, where I'm just like, did you ever feel like you needed to like power level or grind anywhere? And you were just like, absolutely not. And in the pursuit of going after some of those like end game areas that become accessible during Act 3, I definitely over leveled myself for the final boss.
Yeah, I was lucky in that I asked Brett and Alex what I should do for that. Is like, should I be doing these in-game things before I finish the game? And they're like, no, just come back afterwards. So I was able to do the final boss sequence at a level where it was still somewhat challenging. It wasn't hard, but it had some challenge left to it compared to just blazing through it, which is good.
That's probably my one like actual problem with the game, and it's not even with like the game, I guess it's more that it let me do that to it without ever telling me that it might not be as fun. With like I still love the story and the fights and stuff and everything that happened in the last little bit, still hits really hard.
Some of my favorite music in the game is when you are going back through.
But okay, yeah, some of my favorite music in the game, it would be nice to have heard it for the entire boss fight's intended length and not for like 45 seconds.
Yeah. That song is 12 minutes long.
And you just end up hearing it for like 2 turns, and that's it.
Yeah, if you power level too much, you will miss most of it, unfortunately. Same goes for the sequence after the final boss, where you get the one last fight. And in that fight... So that fight has things where like you'll do an attack, and then there's a voice line that'll play between the characters. You can skip all of those because
if you just hit too hard,
the other character, and so you'll end up missing all of it. I only noticed this because I went through in all my playthrough. I went and redid it, and with much fewer, like I just lowered my gear about to the minimum I could do to make the fight as hard as possible. With the level I had, and so I went back through and I was like, wait, there's like more voice lines playing that go on for a little while that I fully missed. But yeah, the actual structure is great. There's tons of stuff to do, so the point of that is to say you can finish this, and I would say I think I finished it at about 48 hours roughly, and then I played another like 10-ish doing various bits of in-game stuff. But you could certainly extend that far more. Like I didn't level up to fight all the super bosses. I've heard the tale of Simon, and I just didn't want to do it.
I'm probably not going to attempt Simon. I do at some point want to go back and do the Clair boss fight. I have gotten so close to beating her before.
Yeah, that's the one thing left
my
that
hands
I
get
do.
so shaky and sweaty because she is you have to memorize
it's
and
it's a
master
memory
perfect
game.
parrying for every enemy in the game.
Which is very cool.
Enemy,
it's like the rhythm, but most of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, very cool sequences of in-game bosses and stuff that can keep you busy for quite a while. Let's talk about the Act 2 twist, because I think this is going to be the thing that reframes a lot of this. So your whole mission, go kill the Paintress. You do that. You kill the Paintress, you finish everything, you kill the Renoir in the underground area with some of the best music in the game. Yeah. We'll get into Verso in a minute, because I think the Act 2 twist is important to establishing who Verso is. So Act 2, you finished, you kill the Paintress, you've got this man named Verso who joins your party, who is a sword and dagger wielding replacement for Gustav, essentially, who's immortal and uses it for gaffes sometimes, and will cut himself in half to make the party laugh a little bit. Very interesting character that you learn very little about up until this point. He's kind of in the shadows. You know that he's part of Expedition Zero at this point, basically, so he's one of the first people, and then for some reason is immortal. That's basically what it's left at for most of Act 2, and he basically acts as like a Gustav replacement for the most part. Although, in functional terms, Lune is basically the real like party leader right now, and then Mael kind of rises as Act 2 goes up to be the face of the party, as it were. End of Act 2, Mael learns she can gamage people by gamaging Renoir in the area down there.
With the help of the caretaker.
With the help of the caretaker, after Renoir goes full Godfrey.
Elden Ring boss. Yeah.
It's very good and very fun.
Horaloo is in the chat. This is wonderful.
Yeah, Horaloo joins the chat. It's great.
Chief of the Badlands.
It's a really, really fun boss fight and sequence. I think that's my single favorite. Like, I think there are more impactful and emotional scenes in the rest of the game, given the context of the game. But I think that is my favorite, like, cinematic into fight sequence. End to end.
We only have to incompare.
Because it's handled so well. Where you get these complicated emotions of like, nobody except for Verso knows who Renoir is right now. You've got essentially Verso knowing that like this is his quote unquote father. Who wants to quote-unquote protect him. And who has been quote-unquote, not quote-unquote, actually killing expeditioners and going, this is a mercy. Which I have a theory on that I'll get to soon as to why he keeps saying it's a mercy. But I think it's fascinating how they handle this version of Renoir. We'll talk about the other version later. But this version is so interesting to me because he is a part of this story that caps off this section. Because he's far more of an antagonist here than the Paintress really is. I think the Paintress is kind of used as this monolithic, like, the thing in the JRPG that is the god that you have to kill, right? And
the force of nature versus the more personal bodyguard of the force of nature that is actively stopping you from even getting
that you've interacted with quite a bit and have like a quote unquote relationship with. You have some amount of knowledge of, and it's very emotional. It's clear that something's going on with Mael that Mael doesn't know about, and this builds into stuff later on, but essentially she gamages him at the end to fully remove him from the painting.
The
party looks a little the party looks a little horrified at this, although Luna's like,
how many more times?
How many more times do we need to? So yeah, it's a great sequence that I think really shows the start of a lot of things. Mainly Verso not filling the party in on the truth is a big point at this point. This is where it starts to come to a head. You've got Mael starting to understand things a little bit more, but also doing things that are kind of objectively horrific. Gomaging somebody. Which I think justifiably makes her feel a little conflicted. And learning how to do that more, which is a little worrying. And then that leads into the Paintress fight, where the Paintress clearly is confused the whole time. It seems like she just doesn't have the energy for the fight in a way, or is just like wanting them to be her family, essentially. With Verso being Verso goes, Verso's actually dead, and she just reacts very poorly to that information.
And then in the third and final phase, after this amazingly choreographed kaiju fight that you have,
there's a move that she does in this Paintress fight is great. It's like it is a proper up until this point in the game, I would not fault you for thinking this is the end of the game. This is the point where I realized the fact that I was told there's an Act 3 is actually a spoiler. Because I was like, wait a minute, we're like doing the thing, and so something's got to happen after this. And so you finish this Act 2 off with this incredible boss fight. One of her moves is there is a line on the screen that shows up saying the Paintress rips reality apart. And then reality gets ripped apart.
Always makes you feel good.
Tears open the sky and multiple arcing beams of light come.
Yeah, and it like zooms way out. You don't see your characters anymore. You just see massive blasts going towards where you're flying. It's a very cool sequence. Another thing Verso does is turns out he had the stone that SK needed to fly the whole time and just didn't give it to you until right now.
Yep.
Just keeping the Verso things in mind and the Mael things in mind because they're going to be important.
And the third phase of the fight, after this whole thing about her,
yes,
trying to bargain with the party members, not seeming like she has the energy, if you don't immediately nuke her in the third phase, she begins healing the party members.
Which is wacky because what I did.
Did you see that she was mostly healing Mael?
So when I did this, I had my main party was Verso, Mael, and Monoko at this point, and all she did, and because I had done the same thing back when Gustav died, where the start of the fight, I was like, okay, Gustav's dead. Like, nothing I can do in this fight is gonna matter. So what I'm gonna do is just wait. And be like, is there anything that happens if I wait? And in that fight, nothing happens really. Gustav you delay his demise by like one turn as Frenwall waits for you to attack. But in this fight, doing that meant I got to like confirm that the Paintress was shielding Mael repeatedly the whole time. Now, I don't know if this was random, because I only waited, I think, 3 full rounds for this to happen.
When I was watching Tommy play through, he was also only doing it to Mael.
So, yeah, I don't know if it's fully random, or if it's part of this, or anything like that. And I think the only thing that gets me is I don't think I actually had Verso in the party, now that I mentioned. I think I had CL in the party instead. Because I would be interested if Verso was in the party, if she did it to Verso instead. But yeah, at least with Mael there, Mael gets shields, or she'll do it to a random party member. So she just stops fighting fully, and then you can continue the fight yourself and like finish it off, 'cause the sliver of health. And then she gets gamaged, and you gamage the Paintress, and there's a little victory moment of CL and Lune getting Mael to plant the flag at the top of the monolith. Everyone's kind of happy, except there's a lingering feeling the whole time of something's wrong, because it like cuts to Verso's face and he has this weird look. He's very quiet.
Verso and Mael just feel very empty there, and it's
I think Mael just feels like
wonderfully built up.
There was an anticlimax kind of like Mael thought this would be harder.
That's it? Yeah.
Whereas I think Verso's is for very obvious reasons. Verso knows what's going to happen next. Mael does not. Yeah. Mael is just like, I think, trying to recover, and you can see her. Because you land back in Lumiere, and you see her starting to like go around and smile and see all these people until she finds Gustav's apprentices and Gustav's sister, and starts to break down and like try to talk to the kids and give them the journal that she's been keeping up for Gustav the whole time. And then,
all the while, Verso's
reading
has another letter that he's been keeping to himself,
that he kept from the party, because we haven't talked about Weird Alicia that shows up, which is this like lady with a not like painted look, but like a grayscale white hair and a mask on that you see a few times throughout the game. Specifically, whenever Mael's involved, you'll usually see her in the early stages, and there'll be something going on between the two. And so you get to this point, and it's revealed that she's Verso's sister, and Verso has this letter from her because she can't speak, from Burns, essentially. And Verso's reading through this, and it's basically her saying she kind of disagrees with what Verso's doing, but just won't stop him. And is like, okay, here's a letter for you to choose if you want to give it to Mael so that she knows what's going on. And Verso, instead of giving the letter to Mael so she knows what's going on, doesn't do it.
I heard this. I wish I remembered where exactly, but it was given the choice, Verso will only ever tell the truth through direct player interaction.
I think that is something that I was saying to you, because I have that in my notes. Yep. That is in my notes with every sequence of when Verso tells lies, and when the player gets to interrupt them with something. So Verso doesn't give this letter, lets it sink into the ocean. Everyone gets gamaged. The entirety of Lumiere gone, because it turns out it was the real Renoir and not the Renoir that you killed, and that's because everyone's in a painted world. This is the classic, you're playing the Oblivion side quest going into the painting.
Oh yeah, by the way, the caretaker, real Renoir.
Yeah, real Renoir. So you basically get booted into a flashback sequence as Mael remembers what happened.
Which, don't they call it an epilogue, but it's really a prologue?
So yeah, what they do is they say it's Act 2, it moves into epilogue, which is a flashback sequence, which moves into, it gets erased from the screen, and then Act 3 appears at the end of the sequence, which is very clever and very cool. So you think you've hit the end of the game and you're getting like a little epilogue, and Mael essentially wakes up, but whoops, it's not Mael, it's Alicia, and this is the real world and not the painted world. And she has horrific burns and can't speak, covering her face like that, matching the Alicia that you meet in the painted world.
And you are in real world Paris in
you're real world Lumiere, not Paris. I think there is there's definitely, this is not the real world.
I thought you could see the Eiffel Tower out of her window.
Well, you can see the Eiffel Tower in Lumiere as well.
It's not like real life. There's like magic and shit happening.
Yeah, this is a magic place, essentially. There's a few questions with that. Like, we don't know if the Gestrels and the Grandis are from the real world or they were creations of Verso's mind, which we'll get into in a little bit. But there's definitely this idea that like the real world is still weird. There's some feud going on very quickly because you learn from the only person who comes to talk to you in this is Clair, who is your sister or Miles' sister. Or Alicia's sister, to remember the names here.
Alicia's sister.
And Verso's sister. You learn that Verso actually died really badly in a fire.
Saving Alicia.
There's a few different interpretations of this from different characters in the story. So some characters seem to blame Alicia for the fire. It's clear that Verso doesn't. And that... I think it's also clear that Clair kind of doesn't blame her for the fire as well. And that
she was quote-unquote manipulated by the writers, and somehow a writer gained access to their estate.
Something happened, essentially, and either Verso or Alicia got manipulated, and then the writers did something. We don't learn anything more about the writers. They're just kind of mentioned offhandedly.
Which,
hopefully we get a game about that later on.
Amazing. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Great world building.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's fine. We move on from it. It doesn't matter for the story. But essentially, Alicia is either responsible for or involved with the death of Verso. But specifically, Verso died saving Alicia. So you end up with a situation where like Alicia's family doesn't want to talk to her because they see her as a reminder of the grief. Clair is very terse with her and very clearly has this like older sister relationship. The thing that this is one of the things, I have a lot of notes on this game. And Alicia and Clair's relationship is really interesting to me because I think this is very clear that it's one of the things that probably was cut content. I think definitely Clair was going to be more involved in the story somehow because
on the painting side or in the real world side?
Either, like, I think it's very clear that there's Clair stuff that didn't make it into the game. Not to say that I think it's a problem. I think it's fine that it's not there because it doesn't affect your playing of the game at all. But Clair comes out of nowhere at this point. Like, you haven't heard any mention of a Clair. You've gotten no reference. You'll see her stuff related to her later on in the in-game stuff, but at this point, she's brand new. And her relationship with Alicia is very interesting, but essentially she's telling you to get into painting. And she admits to you that like she doesn't know if she would have done what Verso did in the same situation and saved you. She's like, I'm not sure that was the right call. And I think you can read a lot into whether or not these two actually like each other, but I think it's very clear that there's at least some level of like sisterly relationship here.
Yeah. But she's also under an immense deal of stress having to almost single-handedly fight a war on behalf of her parents, who are very absent.
That's the thing we don't know. So Clair says that she does, but we also don't know if that's just her method of dealing with the fact that Verso died, is that she is throwing herself into her quote-unquote work and doing the classic thing that many people will do with grief, which is just put it away to deal with later. You have more pressing problems, which is how I
was going to say that it never felt to me that they're like I don't wish that I played more Clair things in the story with the way the game released, because to me she just feels like every character in the family is like one of the personification of one of the ways that people deal with grief.
Yeah.
Maybe not even exactly like the cycles of grief that like most people know, but just like one of the ways.
Just a way that the extreme of how a person could deal with this, right?
And you need to have the kind of person that just fucks off and doesn't talk to anybody anymore, and Clair is that person, and as a result she is barely in the story.
Yeah, she's just moving on, and so she's like very terse with everybody. She doesn't really spend any time worrying about this. And it's just like, here, you go solve the problem. And basically, you learn that everyone in this family, the Dissandras, are painters, and what that means is they can paint a canvas and then literally go inside. And so you have Renoir and Aline, who the paintress and the curator. Turns out that the two of them are your parents, Alicia's parents, and you come walk up to them, and they're both like painted faces staring into this painting.
And this so cool, like turpentine aesthetic all over their eyes.
It's really good.
The painting. Oh, it's so pretty.
It's like their eyes are the palettes essentially that they're using. It's fascinating. Clea is like, okay, can you go in and like pull one of them out while I'm dealing with the writer stuff? You agree is a strong word for it, considering that you can't really speak. But although it's very clear that the benefit to Clea is that she has some understanding of what her sister is saying, even though she can't talk very well with her burned vocal cords.
And the line, and while you're in there, paint yourself a new throat.
Yeah, but she also does that, and so you kind of have this relationship with like, I don't know exactly how on good terms these two are.
Yeah,
the whole time, because this is really mean-spirited sometimes. It's clear that Alicia is the least experienced painter of these. It's built up in a few lines that you find in the manor in the game, as well as other things, that Alicia spent a lot of time reading books and doing other things and not painting, and so she's not as good at it as the rest.
Influenced by the writers?
Yep, maybe a little nod to the writers, which means when she gets pulled into this painting, she's not able to resist the chroma, quote-unquote, which is this, like, whatever power that they can use to paint takes chroma, and chroma is, like, spread throughout the canvas. Like, every person in the canvas has chroma, and is made up of it. And that chroma can be taken and reused, which is what gamaging someone is taking the chroma and giving it to Renoir. So this whole situation gets explained, and you're like, okay, everything I know about this game is now false. This world is a painted world.
Completely inversed, too, with the good and the bad guys that you thought you were after.
Specifically because this world was painted by Verso. Verso is dead. Real Verso died in a fire. Painted
and yet there
Verso,
was still a tiny little bit of his soul stuck painting the canvas.
This is again one of the things the game doesn't explain. And that's, I think it's better for it. It's better that we don't know whether or not actually there is a piece of Verso's soul here. But it's clear that there are remnants of Verso in the painting, because throughout the game you will run into a little boy who has a missing face. That's Verso's remnant soul, whatever you want to call it. Who will talk about the world
in the same aesthetic as the caretaker.
Yeah, as the curator and the paintress.
Like cracked apart.
So you very clearly know there's something up with that. You'll find Clea's as well. The woman is Clea that you run into a few times. And so you have these pieces here. And the thing that gets to me with why this may not be Verso's actual soul, like, I don't think that we can declaratively say it is, because why would Clea's be there if it wasn't just that, like, when you paint something, you leave a reflection on it?
I don't know, because the painted version of Clea is her super boss fight. Clea herself, it was talking about this. You know, it takes extraordinary power to paint over someone else's canvas work.
Yeah.
Clea painted over her painted self and essentially created her painted version as the Nevron factory to supply.
Yeah, which is a whole other thing. But that is to say that, like, both Clea and Verso have imprints of themselves in this painting somehow. Clea is alive and fine in the other world. So, like, whether or not this is, like, the thing to put here is that I think at every step, the writers of this game, specifically, let me give credit where it's due to her name, Jennifer Svedbergian, the main writer, who did everything she could to make sure that this isn't you can't make a declarative statement about the endings of this game to get into, because there are two endings, and we'll talk about both of them very soon. But it's very much like, it's not that one is correct and one is better. It's that there are so many different pieces of each ending that you have to think on, and like what it happens. And when you make the choice, you're not going to have any of this knowledge, right? Because all of it is recontextualized by the individual ending. So, like, this isn't a thing that you can make a good decision on necessarily. It's, you kind of have to go with your gut feeling as to what is going to be the outcome that you would rather see, because neither one of them is good. In a lot of reasons. So you end up in this really interesting situation at the start of Act 3, where Mael knows what's going on now, or Alicia knows what's going on. Again, two names here. She says she prefers Mael.
Well, yeah, her not going back, her originally getting painted over in the canvas was her mother just like, okay, not Alicia anymore. You're starting a new life as Mael. You're going to be completely immersed in the world of the canvas. Forget all your past memories.
Yeah. But they also don't tend to explain how the canvases work. Like, there's not a lot of time spent into the mechanics of how the painters function, and I think that's actually a good thing for the story.
It's magic.
Because
absolutely.
It's really important that you aren't able to know, right? Like, the most you know is that, like, okay, Renoir's collecting the chroma to wipe out the entire canvas, right? Like, that's the important thing. And you know that you can probably also collect the chroma now because Mael knows she's a paintress and can do all these things now that she can't.
Oh. That's right, with the warring, like family members side. Yeah. It's, of course, the whole paintress recontextualization. The number was the people that she could save from Renoir gommaging them. That whole
yeah, it turns out paintress wasn't the problem at all. It was Renoir gommaging people and the paintress trying to save them. But you get a couple of other bits of context here of, like, Clair has helped Renoir by going in and making nevrons, which when they kill someone don't let their chroma escape, so they're stuck with their chroma, which means it doesn't go back to Aline.
Fossilized versions are, right?
Yeah.
Of all the
yes. So that means they were killed by nevrons, and their chroma stayed with them and wasn't given to Aline to allow her to be stronger. You end up with the gommage is Renoir collecting chroma from all the people that are still that he's able to affect that Aline can't protect. Now, the thing that gets me, I'm going to inject this here back to when painted Renoir, the one that you killed earlier, goes, this is a mercy. The reason I think that's true is I think what painted Renoir thinks is happening is every time he kills somebody, he's not a Nevron. So their chroma goes back to Aline and not to Renoir, is what I think is happening. So I think he truly believes that it's the better option for him to kill them and extend how long the rest of them get to stay there maybe a little bit. Which is fascinating because he
can act all high and mighty with how little he knows. He thinks he's.
But again,
right.
It's the same thing of like that painted version of Renoir has none of the context of the rest of this. He knows he's painted and he knows that, and he knows he's not the real one, which means he still wants to not die. And he's got the same
because all the people
drive.
In the painting, to anyone's knowledge, are sentient. These are real living people.
Sentient, but painted by Aline, which means they lean in ways that reflect how Aline views the world. Where you get, like, painted Verso, who is the Verso that you know in the game and is in your party, has this horrific drive to self-sacrifice in order to save Alicia. Not Mael, specifically, Alicia, because that's what the real Verso did. And so she's remembering that and putting it in. And painted Alicia is like scarred, grayscale, covers up her burns. Presumably because Aline is like, I don't know, not happy with Alicia. And she clearly doesn't talk to painted Alicia.
Still blames Alicia for Verso's death.
But it's also not clear if it's blaming Alicia or if it's that, like, she just isn't even ready to confront Alicia, so she just leaves her there. Something of those two, which just goes to show how her life probably is outside of the painting, which will recontextualize the ending stuff again.
God, speaking about, I'm sorry, just like I get. This is probably one of like my favorite things realizing when it comes to touching more on gameplay mechanics and things like that for spoilery reasons, and the fact that they really don't hide a lot of the twists and things like that.
Yeah.
But there's a reason that you can put together later at the beginning of the epilogue / Act 3. Why Alicia mainly uses fire powers.
Yeah, Mael has so many fire-related abilities and none of the other elements, and it's because of this. She got burned real bad.
Yeah. And also, one of my favorite cosmetics in the game is Gustav's burning clothing.
Yep. So you get a lot of cool things from that. I think it's fascinating how much effort they put into like getting the mechanics to support the narrative and vice versa. And I think that's why it ends up working so well. The rest of Act 3 is actually pretty simple because you only have one objective. Your objective is now you've stepped back into the painting. Mael remembers being Alicia and is fully aware of what's going on now. The only person who's still in Lumiere is Painted Verso is still there. Everyone else got gamaged, essentially, including Lene and CL. And so you have Alicia sitting down with Painted Verso and saying that she prefers the name Mael, which again is a problem.
It is. One of the things that I thought was very sweet in the moment, looking back. Oh, that's horrific.
It's a problem.
Yeah. That's an admission of something very bad.
But again, it makes sense because like Alicia, it's very clear that Alicia did not spend a lot of time in the Painted Worlds because she was doing things like reading. Like that's why those notes exist, is to show you that like Alicia doesn't have this experience. Like she hasn't been locked in these paintings the way that she is now. She, to her own experience, has spent as long in the painting as she has in the outside world. It's very clear that's not how it works. Like Aline has been here for 100 years essentially and is the same age on the outside, just clearly weakening somehow. So you end up with this like some amount of time doesn't flow the same way in the painting.
Interesting time dilation, also not touched on for an exact rate because we don't need to know that.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter. What matters is that the longer you spend in the painting, the worse kind of a backblast you're going to get when you leave it. Because you can see that like Renoir at one point will show you what happened to Aline when she got put out of the painting, where she's like coughing on the ground for a few minutes, trying to recover from being in the painting for so long. But she was there for like 60 something years, I think 67 years by the time of Expedition 33. So quite a while she's been in this painting, compared to Alicia. But Alicia still is like, she's a 16-year-old girl. She has that same amount of time spent in the painting as presumably she has on the outside. So you end up with this her whole perception of like what her family is and all that is super twisted because of this. Yeah. Justifiably. Like you can't blame her for that. It's very justifiable why she views it this way. Verso still does the thing now where he's like, well, whatever. Good old Verso just kind of sitting there and going like, I should die the whole time. But he agrees to help Alicia try to recover and escape and do something about what's going on. Because importantly, one of the things Verso agrees with in the notes that you find related to him is that he doesn't like that the whole world is going to go away. But he sees it as necessary in what we'll get to with his ending. So he's like, at this point, well, maybe there's another way. So he'll join her for a while. And you go back, you get to learn about Alicia's chroma powers, where she can find Ciel and Lune's chroma because it's relatively freshly...
She just fully repaints them.
Gone, and then she repaints them a couple days later in the camp. But the clear thing here, like the thing that this establishes, is that they are themselves. Like, they're not repainted, done versions of themselves. They are them as they were.
Which also just another whole can of worms.
Yeah, we'll get into that
like,
can of worms when we talk about Mael's ending.
To go
But there's a whole bunch of things that go on with that raise questions. Essentially, at the whole point right now, you're just kind of confused, and you're like, well, we should probably do the ending, finish the game. And so your objective is to go back to Lumiere now, as you've like left. There's a whole bit where Miles like, okay, well, the best we can do to fight back against Renoir and try to like push him out of the painting as well, so both Elena and Renoir are pushed out of the painting, is to go get the chroma from all of the defeated expeditioners who had their chroma locked by the Nevrons, so that she can have her Lord of the Rings ghost army moment of raising her sword.
Which
cool.
One of my favorite moments in the game.
Cool.
Like, the music, I just love a good battle charge to finding your way through the battlefield of Lumiere. Oh my god, It's so fun.
It's really good. And the thing, it's just such a well-handled sequence of you see this like cutscene going to do it. Go ahead, Alex.
I was essentially also the final battle taking place in a area reminiscent of the Gardens of Versailles.
Yes.
So pretty.
It's very good. It's full of like something Alex repeatedly said during this is that there isn't really subtlety in Expedition 33, which I actually disagree with. I think there's quite a lot of not subtlety, but there is quite a lot of subtlety as well.
They know how to hide it to make you slap your forehead, scream, "Oh my god!"
And
then it recontextualizes everything.
It's subtle until it isn't.
I just have to talk about the song. The song that you first hear after like the landfall incident, when you play as Gustav in the Green Little Meadow bit, that song is in English and it spoils parts of the song. It's in English. They tell you what's going to happen, and you're not paying attention to it because of what just happened.
It's so pretty. Wow, it's so cool. Haha, wow.
You also have full songs that are both in French as well as in made-up languages and a mishmash of languages. The musical genius on display here that it just got snubbed for at the Grammys.
Amazing.
It should have won. On display, they didn't get nominated. That's the part that's bad. They got fully snubbed. But the thing that really gets me with the music specifically is that many of the songs that are related to story bosses are recorded as an argument between Aline and Renoir, where the male voice is Renoir and the female voice is Aline, and you get the two of them screaming at each other at various points. Where like they're not singing in harmony; they're singing slightly dissonant to each other in like different tones, and so you get this like really layered music of them literally like shouting their different ideologies to each other, both of which are bad.
So here's a question for you two, because I keep finding myself doing this because I've been trying to learn a bunch of these songs for the piano. When I keep finding myself like humming or having like doodling some of the lyrics to myself, whose side do you end up saying? Because they say it because they both speak at the same time, and you can only say one.
Look, I gotta admit, haven't sung the songs.
No, I haven't. The only one that I have in my head often enough to remember what it is the one
Noko's theme
that plays.
Wow.
Well, okay, well, the only other one that I have in my head, which also, if they did some live concerts in Europe for this. If you haven't seen the videos of them playing that song live and the whole entire crowd going bow wow wow bow wow, it's so fucking funny.
Oh my god, yes.
No, the only song I that actually was so breathtaking to me that I had to go through the entirety of the soundtrack and all of its fucking French names to find which one it was, is the one that's it plays in Renoir's Scraps or whatever it is, and it also plays
his drafts.
Like the drafts, and it plays in like the angry zone or whatever, Renoir's special cool angry zone. It's like the one that's like gone away, and it's like a crazy fucking start to it that I was like, oh my god, this is insane.
There was also just an area that had spoken poetry. Or like spoken word
that
poetry.
Was so cool.
Oh my god, that caught me so off guard. And I think that's another one that I feel like that's one of the cut content areas with how that leaves it. Maybe
it's hard to know. It's clear to speak about the cut content a little bit because I don't think we can really reference it past this because it's kind of stopped being relevant. The specific bits of cut content that we know about are the Dark Shore bits of like the starting point. With some stuff. We know a fair amount of things regarding Expedition Zero got cut. Because there was
supposed to be. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there's in the game files that like shipped, you can find things referencing Julia, who you find a note from at one point. It was one of the Expedition Zero members, and then the setup for a boss fight between her and Verso to have played through at some point. Presumably as they like discover that Verso is weirdly immortal and something strange is going on. So it's clear at some point there was going to be like some Expedition Zero stuff. We don't know how early that got cut or whatnot. But yeah, it's clear that I think what happened is there was going to be more stuff to cast a doubt on Verso, and they decided it probably wasn't worth the squeeze. Which I think my guess with this one is it probably, had they had infinite money, would have been added. Because I think the Verso stuff in particular, the thing that I would read into a little bit is I think the internet at large has kind of embraced the Verso ending as the quote-unquote correct one, and I think the writer would probably push back against that. Not in terms of like the other ending being correct, but in terms of like it being a universal thing. It's like, in my view, these two endings they're in conversation with a lot of it, right? They're not. Neither one exists without the other, the context of the other, and so you have to see like the good ending is somewhere in the middle, right? Like it's like Mile has to leave the painting, and then everyone gets to being happy and in Lumiere.
I was gonna say there may very well be a good ending, but the characters you're playing aren't smart enough to make that decision
Well, that's the thing, like,
This
there's
fucking family doesn't know about it.
This whole game is functionally about the dysfunction of this family, of the Dysandra family. And the thing that means is that in Act 3, you kind of lose sight of what Monoko, Eskia, CL, and Lune have going on, because they kind of take a step back in the story. Not to say that they don't have agency, but that they literally, like, you get to the end of the game, and they just can't make a choice. They can't affect anything that you're doing.
But they can sure as hell make you feel bad about a choice you make.
Yep. So, which is funky because I think we're getting basically into the endings at this point, because Act 3 is pretty light for the most part. It's largely you just gathering side content and doing things that you want to do before going back to Lumiere.
Yeah, you
and
can finish up your character quests and get them the rest of the way leveled up for.
You have like a very small loyalty mission type thing for each character. And that basically will get you to like get the thing. And the one really important thing about that I brought up is this is one of the screenshots I put in here, because this, my opinion on Verso is very heavily covered by this choice, which is Mael asks Verso, "Did you let Renoir kill Gustav? Could you have saved him?" And your options, and reminder here that you're playing Verso, your options are yes, which is the truth, or no, I got there too late, lie. So that's the point where I'm like, Verso is going to take every opportunity to, in his mind, he's like, I have to protect everyone by keeping the truth from them and making the hard choices, which is just what Renoir's doing. It's just the same, he's perpetuating the same cycle.
Like Painted Father, like Painted Son.
Mael's just doing the same thing that Aline was doing, and is perpetuating the same cycle in the other direction. So you end up with these two just like in constant opposition to each other through their ideals here, and that's the best type of like antagonist relationship, because you can't, there's not like a correct answer, right? It's just these two people are so fundamentally opposed on ideologies that they can't come to an agreement on. Maybe in an ideal world they could, but right here in the scenario that they've put themselves in, or been put into more appropriately by the rest of the Dysandra family, there's no clear path through here, and so something's going to happen that's bad for everyone, essentially. So you get these final bits of information about everyone. You learn that like CL was going to have a child, that she had a miscarriage because she almost drowned, and Eskia saved her from drowning, and so you finally get the filled in of why she didn't like water.
Drowned after going to commit suicide because her husband Pierre did not die of the gamage. He died in a fishing accident.
Yep. Which she wasn't prepared for. And then you get to Lune, who basically goes into like her controlling family and all this other stuff, that hers is a little bit less like overt, but she still has her entire own set of things going on. You get Monoko, who has a basically kind of child relationship. It's interesting because you actually learn later on that Noko is the mentor to Monoko. Noko's the older one, but Noko has quote-unquote died many times, because Gestrels can die and then be reborn in their sacred river.
Do they lose their memories?
They lose a portion of their memory of whatever they were. So like Monoko basically forgets about the adventures with, or Noko basically forgets about the adventures with Monoko, which means their relationship starts from zero again. And Noko gets brought back to the village while Monoko is out doing the rest of this. And you learn that this is not the first time this has happened, is that Noko apparently has died multiple times.
He skipped the line at the Rebirth River a lot, and the leader of the Gestrels is not happy. Yeah. That's also a very fun boss fight at the end of his relationship.
Very good boss fight.
I really enjoyed that one.
And then you have tons of side stuff that you can do. Lots of really cool like one-off areas that have gimmicks, like a puzzle area that was the Crimson Forest, where you go and you have to like find 3 hidden things to open up a special material and weapon at the end. You've got the painting workshops where you've got like Renoir's drafts and other very interesting kind of super bossy areas with some more bits of information and letters and whatnot to find. You've got the whole Painted Clea and Flying Manor thing, which isn't a ton of information, but it's the most like story relevant of these areas, I would say, where you get a little bit more knowledge of Clea being like coming in, seeing that Aline had made a painted version of her and being so offended that she painted over that painted version to make it just pump out Nevrons repeatedly, which is a little weird in a lot of ways, but shows that Clea is very good at painting. and yeah, just all this stuff that kind of brings together a lot of these threads that you've learned about, but no big like story revelation.
Well, with the completion of like the character relationship side quests, doing Alicia / Mael's character side quest is you go to the third Nevron that was talked about earlier, because you only have to defeat 2 to get the barrier breaker sword.
Third
you go
Axon.
to the third Nevron, third Axon,
different name.
And waiting for you there is painted Alicia.
Yep, and this is another important bit.
One-on-one with Mael.
You have like a fight with her, but it's a friendly fight. Like it's actually established to not be a boss fight. It's basically like, oh, you're having a friendly sparring match essentially. Because Alicia, the painted version of Alicia, basically can't feel anything and is just super depressed. And
well, also this, I believe the Axon that this area is based off of is also referenced in a painting that Renoir was basing off of Clair.
Well,
is that
so there's 3 things with the Axons. The Axons are all representations, because established in something that Clair mentions when going through, and that Mael mentions in the painted world, is that Renoir always paints with like layers of subtext. Like he has to paint something that means something. He can't just paint to paint. He has to have like a meaning to it. So for Verso, the painting is he who guards the truth with lies. For Aline, it's not for Aline. For Mael and / Alicia, it's she who reaches for the stars or something similar. There's like a separate version for each one. I don't think I wrote down the specific name, but they each have a special name that kind of hits to what he views each person as. And part of the thing that's clear with that is that he actually does like really care about Alicia in a way that maybe Aline doesn't right now, because his painted version for her is like ascending to the skies, like doing whatever she can accomplish, which the painted version of Alicia finds comfort in, despite it not being related to her. Like this Axon painting is not for her, it's for the real Alicia, but she sits there and like paints nearby it to kind of absorb some of that feeling. And you actually don't kill this Axon, if I'm remembering correctly. Like at no point do you actually.
No, I don't think so.
Finish you fight this inside off. Its head or its mouth.
Yeah, you fight inside its head, and then it kind of goes. And you're like, okay, well, we'll let it be, and it sends into the sky because you don't need it at this point. But it's really interesting how it's handled because of that, and so you end up with this final fight here, which is kind of like the two Alicias coming together. And then right afterwards, Alicia and Alicia have a conversation, and Alicia gamages Alicia. Following that, painted Alicia gets gamaged, which is the second third at this point instance of Mael gamaging someone, and it being a little horrific, because the thing that Verso immediately says, which is very true, is that like there should have been a moment before Alicia just went and did that, right?
Yes.
Like Alicia Mael should have waited and been like, hey, do you have final words or something you want to say to your sister before she goes off and to join the stars or whatever. And that is kind of horrific that like Mael just didn't think about that. And that's unfortunate. That's a bad thing that she did. But that said, it's also a bad thing that Verso will do repeatedly. So it's kind of a bit of the tables being turned on Verso, and then Verso doing the same thing, but it helps to establish why Verso feels the way he does about Mael at the end. Because like she's doing things that are kind of horrible. Granted, not as like overtly we're killing people as Renoir is doing.
You're granting them a mercy.
Renoir doesn't fully view them as people, basically. Like he understands that they have some form of sentience and emotion, but he's like, well, that doesn't matter because you're in the way. And so
when Renoir also enters the picture again, not his painted version after he no longer looks like the caretaker. Massive change in his wardrobe. He has like a fully different color palette going on with a golden vest and a white shirt. He looks. This could just be the suit filling him out more, but he looks a lot more slim. Like he's been really busy fighting.
He looks
some
more
battles.
like a gentle old man, right? Like he's meant to look more gentle, I think. And I think the establishment there is that like Aline views him in a way that is far stricter than he maybe actually is.
Absolutely.
But Renoir still has like his own problems here. It was like he is pushed to the edge of his patience by everything that's gone on with Aline, and so now he's kind of taking it out on his daughter, where he's like, well, now we have to fight about this. Where like my thing is, I think the good version of ending of this game would have happened in the conversation with Maëlle or Alicia and Renoir right at the start of Act 3. I think that not going well is the end of the ability for there to be a good ending, right?
Yeah, that was their one opportunity.
Because if the two of them came to an understanding and Maëlle understood that like she does need to leave,
and it's not squarely on one person's fault there. It has to be those two coming.
It's every direction. It's like every single person is perpetuating their own problems. Here, and so you end up in this final scenario where you come back through Lumiere. There's this triumphant charge with the party as you're going through all these different areas of Lumiere. You run back through the starting bits. You're fighting Expedition 32.
Yes, oh my god, that was awesome.
Enemies, essentially. It's very, very cool, and there's this really triumphant bit where like you see the painted or not the painted, but the revived expeditioners that Maëlle has brought back in their like limited form, fighting all these different Nevrons that Renoir has painted, and it's
and they aren't chump troops either. They're kicking the Nevrons' asses.
Yeah, like they're fighting most of the city.
Which is pretty cool.
Very cool. It's a great sequence, and then you get this finale where you come in and finally see Renoir in the center here, going past the opera house, where you learn that Verso loves music more than painting and had wanted to perform in the opera house.
Hey,
which will come
third
back
art
later.
Form.
Which is maybe another third art form that will relate to something like the painters and the writers. But then you go into this fight with Renoir, and essentially over the course of the fight, Renoir will resummon all the Axons, he'll repaint them, and then Aline enters the painting again and then helps you and decks Renoir's Axons to take them out of the picture.
You get a kaiju fight.
It's
so
good.
Cool.
And it's one of the reasons that you should do this before doing all the endgame stuff, because it's far better when it lasts for a little while.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you want to revel in this stuff.
Yes, it's really good.
Some
the
of the
music is
biggest
going crazy.
To attacks are in that boss fight. That's crazy.
And it's not a particularly hard fight, but it's super spectacle based. It's really, really fun. And then you win, and Renoir and Aline or Alicia talk for a little while, and Renoir agrees to leave the painting, with knowing that you can see in his eyes, he knows Maëlle is lying at this point and is saying that she'll also leave, but has no intention to.
Dude, can I say specifically, just this? It's come up multiple times, but this also is a really good opportunity. The subtlety and the facial animation for this game,
oh my god,
is I honestly really
and it was recorded on phones.
Which is hilarious, dude. It's so funny.
It's so incredible.
This game is art. That's it.
Well, yeah, of course, and it better be, considering what it's about. But so many games go out of their way to be the most realistic one that comes out that year or whatever, and the characters can look good or whatever, but you can tell they're dolls or something or whatever. There's something that's not there behind the eyes, and that you just whatever. That's video game characters. That's fine. And this game doesn't look the most realistic or whatever that is supposed to mean. But just there's very, very complex emotion.
The facial animation so well.
It's for sure. Which I think
remarkable.
They had to, for the way they tell certain parts of the story, because certain parts of the story are interesting because the character that is, speaking or whatever, isn't going to come out and say how they feel. Otherwise, this would be a way more simple narrative than it is right now.
The relief on Ciel's face as she gets gommaged at the end of Act 2.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of wacky stuff going on with the facial animation. The eyes in particular are super well done. I would say those are the single best asset in the game is the character eyes, because they're basically telling you the subtext of every conversation that's happening. But yeah, this final fight happens, and Renoir leaves. Maëlle is gonna stay and repaint everybody, but then a doorway opens kind of in this painted bit, and you can walk through it. You see Verso looks back at the party and then goes through this doorway and finds what he believes to be Verso's soul. This is again one of those things that I think a lot of people take Verso at his word here as to what this is, and not what it might be in various ways, because we know Verso's dead. Actual Verso has died. There's a piece of his soul here, and Verso comes up to him and is like, "You don't want to paint anymore, right?" But he's doing a thing, and this is a thing that
the leading question.
Yes. So this is a thing, like when you're designing a quiz or like a form or something, you're trying to get feedback on something, which we do in game design all the time. It's really important to not ask leading questions, because people will, for the most part, agree with the leading part. Where if you lead with that was fun, right? People are going to say yes most of the time, because you've led them to that conclusion. And this is maybe the remnant of a child's soul, maybe just an imprint left on the painting that is part of this world now, given the same way that painted Clair is. So you end up in all these different scenarios that we don't know, but Verso takes this as real Verso being in the painting still in some form and needing to take a break, right? And so you end up in this weird scenario where Verso comes in here, sees this child version of himself painting, and he's like, this is not correct, and wants to fix it, which again is not a wrong emotion, but it's very much leading into what's about to happen, which is Mael notices this and follows him through, learns that the only reason he can be in this place, which is the in-between of the painted world and reality, is because of the fact that Aline had painted him to be immortal, essentially. Where you see him start to gamage and then reform it at the start of this. Mael comes in and sees the same scene and has a small conversation with him, and then the two of them start getting into an argument, and the worst choice the game can possibly give you pops up, which is you can choose to fight as Mael or as Verso, as the two of them have a final battle. And this is where I want to mention, no matter what you do, essentially speaking, every character that you play as dies. In this game, that is your face figure. Either you have Verso dying in his own ending of his own will, or you have Mael eventually dying in her own ending of the painting sickness. So you've got this horrible scenario now where everyone is in a bad spot, and essentially you've got two options. You fight as Mael, and Mael will repaint Lumiere. Everyone will be happy you see Gustave again. But you also have Verso begging to be erased.
Yeah.
And then Mael not letting him. And
yeah, they're holding him captive as he's performing a piano piece in the.
So that's the thing with this is I think there's a line earlier that Mael says that is about I don't have the exact line written down, but it's something if you were removed from the situation, could you find something to live for, or something like that? If you were able to play again and not worry about all this stuff that's going on, would you still feel like you need to get yourself killed, essentially, to Verso? And at that point, it's left ambiguous, and it's clear in Mael's ending that that's what she was trying to attempt, is that to give Verso the thing that he himself had said was his dream of playing in this opera house and having his piano. And it's also clear that she allowed him to age, but the problem is the statement allowed, because Mael
she's
is
a god now,
functionally the god of the world, which brings a lot of problems, right? Of now, Mael's here. Can people die anymore? Is that allowed? Is Mael responsible for bringing everyone back who potentially dies of natural causes? Does death matter in this world anymore? Is it a problem if it doesn't? Or is she just here forever?
What happens when somebody dies in the real world while they're still in the painting, and also that person is the god of the world? That doesn't sound like it would be very good for everybody else in there.
We also are left with so many different things of we don't even know if the painting continues if no painters are in it, right? We don't know if the painting itself is it paused? Is everyone frozen in time, or does it keep going on its own? There's so many questions here that means you can't have a correct answer, right? There's no way to know what the actual solution here would have been. The guess at the good ending would have been Mael leaves and Renoir leaves, and everyone is happy in the painted world that Mael just reconstructs and then removes herself from.
Yeah, and the sadness comes from like Spirited Away, looking back at all the painting and giving like a
Yeah.
sad, knowing smile while
Yeah.
never
Or maybe
seeing
the her
them
going
again
in
or
like
whatever.
once every decade and
And
seeing
they-
her friends slowly die.
and they-
There's the post-credit scene of the good ending as being like, "Hey, everybody, I've been gone for 15 years. Oh my God, you look so old now. Whoa, I did this while you were gone."
And then the slow like cosmic horror of that, realizing that that's what's going to happen forever. And that
Yeah, literally.
So
Um,
you end up
and
in
then
this
also
like this scenario
completely
where
ignoring
nothing's
that.
good.
Oh, if the painting still exists, her mom's still gonna try to get her way in unless some therapy is involved.
Right,
A
like,
lot
that's
of it,
the whole
and
thing.
that's
Is
not
that
an
like
option for the
the whole Desandra family
They don't
needed to
believe
have therapy before this happened, right? Like they needed to be
It's
in
too
family
late.
counseling
Therapy will not help
beforehand.
anymore.
Because yeah, Aline is self-destructive. Renoir is not self-destructive, but destructive in protecting his family. Same as Verso, who is again self-sacrificing for Mael. So in Mael's ending, you end up with a repainted Lumiere, a repainted Gustave and Sophie. You end up with a random child who people theorize might be the Verso kid from the painting room of like that was painting the back room. Is that Mael repainted him as a child?
Or maybe it's Gustav and Sophie's kid if enough time has passed. Because
Maybe,
Verso
but
is also
it doesn't seem like any
aged,
time's passed really. So you end up with a bunch of like weird scenarios here.
Does time pass?
Yeah,
Doesn't
again,
even matter.
does it happen? We don't know.
I don't know.
But is it better that time doesn't pass and they're there, or is it better that they all just cease to exist because Verso decided he was having a bad day?
Just don't think about a single fucking thing. It's a cosmic nightmare.
That's the problem. Is like any angle you look at either of these endings, they're both problematic in every possible way. So
We haven't really gone into the. Well, sorry. Well, I want to make sure you're done with the Alicia ending before we go into the.
yeah,
Verso
we'll get to Versus ending in a minute,
of-
but I want to establish the throughput of events that happened in my L ending, because I think the most likely thing, I think, if you're going through this completely blind, is that people will probably pick Mael first and then realize they don't feel good about it and play the Verso ending. I legitimately think that is probably the path that a lot of people will take, unless they're like me or Brett or you, Alex, that were contrarians and go, let's see what the Verso
Unless you've
ending
seen
is.
Evangelion before and you know that escapism is bad and you shouldn't do it.
So you end up with this really.
Oh, I was more
interesting-
along the lines of, my God, Verso's so tired, just let him die. He wants.
Well, yeah,
so
that
badly.
also.
So you've got that whole
And
part.
then
but
also, my thoughts were on that is that Alicia, God, like, and this is what I was going so back and forth, and this is just like
Yeah.
another amazing thing, because when you're thinking about it, like, people, like, these characters are so well written because their arguments aren't completely watertight and well thought out.
Mhm.
They have their own like logical fallacies and things like that. And I was thinking, I kept on going back and forth in my head thinking like as Verso, because I chose him first. I'm just like, well, I mean, like, Alicia has the opportunity to grow as a person more outside the painting, maybe, is what he's thinking of. But then she's also in a disfigured body where she's not going to have like the full like experience of like
Yeah.
she's not going to be able to live life to the fullest in there.
It's like
And
we
then
don't know
also
what
the thing
medicine
was-
looks like in the real world, in this setting, the quote unquote real world within the video game. Like, is it possible for her to heal? Who knows? Or does she just have to paint forever and go into paintings to be able to speak to anybody? Because that's not great. But yeah, there's a whole lot of questions with that. The Alicia ending in general ends on a positive but then dark tone of you see Lumiere, you see
Yeah.
the opera house, you see all your friends over the course of the adventure are there, everyone's alive and happy, and then you see Verso, slightly older, looking very Metal Gearable, walks into the room and sits down at a piano and like is kind of groaning and looks over towards Mael, and all he sees is Alicia with like the painted eyes, presumably causing herself to suffer in the real world by being here. Now, granted, that's not what other people see when they look here. That's what Verso is seeing, which leads me to believe, this is my conspiracy theory with this ending, is that it's shown through the perspective of Verso for the most part. So the bits that are dark and weird, where you get like the discordant piano, is again Verso's opinion of what's going on, not necessarily the actuality of what's happening. Is that the camera angle is showing the things according to what Verso wanted to see, which is a conspiracy theory based on the fact that you play Verso for most of the game. But I think that there is stuff to lend it to that being the case, which is why this ending feels so dark compared to the other, is because Verso is like the one that is coming out of this worse off in every way. And Mael. Mael's not getting out of the scot-free. She'll eventually die of some disease that happens because you paint too much.
She's gonna get turpentine in her goddamn lungs.
Yep. But presumably she'll live a whole happy life on the inside. Does it really matter that much? That's the question this asks of you. And then we go to the Verso ending, where you choose to fight as Verso, and you basically gamage Mael by just kill her.
You gamage Mael.
You kill Mael, and then she's like, "I don't want to go," and then you go, "It's okay."
Oh, cool. That's not an answer. I don't want to go. It's okay.
And Verso sits there as Mael fades and gets pushed out of the painting. We'll get to what happens to her in a minute, but before that happens, Verso sits back there, convinces the child to stop painting, and then you see CL and Lune come through this door. CL goes out almost like she's gonna reach for your hand or something. She starts to reach for it, and then she looks you in the eyes, takes her hand away, and then just fades. You're like, well,
Lune.
She's not happy. Lune gives you a
she
look.
Comes in.
A look that I sent a message to Alex about this, and I was like, if anyone ever gave me the look that Lune is giving Verso right now, I would die on the spot because of whatever I did to warrant that look has to have been so bad.
Yeah. And that's the subtlety in the facial animation. Like, they got the Anakin Skywalker glare there, dude. They looked at that same painting of Lucifer and they were like, damn, that shit is evil.
Yeah. And I think that's the important thing, because like the thing to me that gets me with how Verso's interpretation of this ending goes is I think Verso functionally falls into the same trap that Renoir does, in that he doesn't view the people in the painting as real. He views them as pieces of a painting, including himself, which is why he's so self-destructive.
Which you can choose to go into a relationship with Ciel or
well, not anymore. That doesn't turn out well.
Nope.
So Verso functionally just like doesn't seem to register to him that these people are worth keeping around, right?
But then Esquier and Minoko come in.
Yes, but they were painted by Verso, not by Aline. You got to remember that Esquier and Minoko were Verso's original painting pieces, where Esquier was Verso's like mythical creature, and the Minoko was his dog. And so Minoko and Noko.
Esquier was his therapist. Esquier was his childhood therapist that he was projecting onto, and his last words are, "I'm gonna miss you guys."
Yeah, and so that bit, like, the only ones that don't have, well, they do actually have negative thoughts about it if you talk to them in the camp before. They're like, I don't really agree with what you're doing, but I'll see it through because I'm your dog, essentially, is Minoko's response.
Because I'm your dog.
And so you end up with this whole scenario where, like, yeah, Verso kind of, if you want, depending on how you want to look at it, there's a lot of people that go like, well, functionally everyone in the painting was dead because Renoir gamaged them, so we can't really blame Verso for everyone being dead. But you can't blame the Verso for killing the entire Gestural village, functionally. Like, everyone there is dead because Verso decided to do this, and all of that. And so you end up this whole scenario with, like, whether or not you view these painted people as having been real, quote-unquote, people, determines how bad the scale of Verso's ending is. And I think there's a heavy leaning towards people viewing this as like, well, the painted people were painted and it's time to end. That's it. That's all she wrote.
It's like, yet throughout all your experience of them, they might as well be sentient. They are sentient.
And the thing to me that is the proof of that is Gustav. Why do you play as Gustav first? Is because Gustav is a painted person and is so determined to make a better world for both himself and everyone else, that he sacrifices himself for Mael in pursuit of that world. And so you end up with this whole scenario. What I want to know is, like, what would Gustav think at this point? Had he been saved? Is like, at this point, I think he'd be the one that probably would have. I have to believe that Gustav could have convinced Renoir to do the right thing.
I think so. Yeah,
had
they left the actual, like, good normal guy around, I think he would have been the voice of reason.
Yeah, which is why I think, like, it ultimately Verso is the one that causes all the problems because he kills Gustav.
It's how the person who has like the
supervillain's
kryptonite always gets killed off first. Because
in that conversation about it, he says basically, I don't even need to say basically. I have the quote here, where he goes through and is like, he was worried that you would refuse to help and send my mom home, and just he's so worried about Mael possibly in some scenario choosing the thing that he doesn't agree with.
Instead of just talking, I'm gonna let your mentor, brother, and father figure die.
I'm gonna give you more trauma. And the thing is, he's painted Verso, but he knows what Verso went through. Like he's aware of what happened to Verso.
Painted Verso with all his memories.
So he knows that Alicia is incredibly traumatized. And that means he also knows that he's just causing more trauma by doing this. What's better than one dead brother or two dead brothers?
The same brother.
You end up with this exact same scenario happening again to her, which, like, at this point, Mael is just compounded trauma. Alicia is having a truly terrible time. Versus end, she's pushed into the real world. After all that happens in this, like, interstitial, we cut to the funeral of Verso. They're finally having an actual funeral for the real Verso that died. And you get...
Everyone is there, right?
Everyone's there. Clair and her parents are all there. And you cut to you have Alicia kind of standing off to the side, holding Esquier plush that she has. As
they made marketable plushies of his therapist.
Yes, as she looks out and sees the gang from the game doing various actions, which I want to talk about because I think a lot of people see this and are like, "Oh, look, they're all happy that she's going." First of all, they're
not happy.
They're not there. This is either a hallucination of Mael or something else. Probably a hallucination of Mael. Mael trying to justify what has happened to her. And you see in this crowd, most of them are waving and are going like, goodbye, we'll see you later. You see Mael herself, the non-painted version. You see Alicia is holding SK, and then you see Mael with the red hair there, who just hugs her arms and stares forwards the whole time. Does not look happy. And then you have Gustav, who beckons and is like, come join us as she goes away. Which, isn't great. I think there's a lot of, like, readings into those that you can potentially do. I think the most negative one is that Gustav beckoning is Mael, or not Mael, but at this point Alicia's intrusive thoughts in the same way that Verso was having in the painted world, which is probably the darkest way to look at it. But I do think
I think it's really time for me to die.
Like, I think there's just a lot that is established in this ending that you need to look at this for longer than the game first gives you to really understand what's going on.
Get me a freeze frame of that. Zoom and enhance.
That said, like, there's not a happy ending.
Let me
like,
feel.
No, there isn't.
There isn't a happy ending. And it's also, like, we talked about, you can go the whole route of, like, the painted people are real people, and so them dying and Verso making the choice to functionally kill Lune Ciel and the Gestrals and all that is equivalent to quote-unquote murder. But there's another perspective, which is, if they're real people, wouldn't it be better that Alicia can now go on to paint more on the outside, and she can now create worlds that are preferably not under the same conditions that they were in there. Potentially even doing something like painting them again in a different canvas that isn't corrupted by this, like, grief of Verso. And maybe that's the good ending, is that she can go and now, with her knowledge, once she's kind of past all of this, go back and repaint all of this. But who knows, right? Because we know the chroma is what made them inside, and presumably all that chroma is gone with the canvas being destroyed. So you end up in this scenario where you just aren't sure, which I think is really critical to the ending working, is that you can't know which one feels better or if there's going to be a good end.
I love being left with questions to this extent. Yep. I can't remember the last game that has done this, or really just artistic experience that has done this either.
I mean, it's why it's so affecting.
Because, like, so many other things or whatever, the people that make them really want every single little bit to be explained to the point where it's not even like, interesting anymore unless you're a Redditor. But
Shut up
like
about midichlorians.
yeah, it's just like I really hope we never get like a here's what really happened or whatever in any sort of like future edition or even like art book or whatever, like because it just doesn't need it. I like clearly the the creator's intent is that you will get out of it whatever you have in your brain to
Yeah.
get out of it, right? You're supplied with more than enough information to make whatever distinction you come out of it yourself. And I just think the most important thing that you cannot say is that you cannot say that like, oh well, this one is definitely the good ending. You could say like one of them is maybe a little bit better with some caveats depending on what
Yeah.
kind of person you are or what media has last altered your psyche earlier that week or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, the like I obviously after what I just said, I recognize that there is not a perfect world, but for me, the better one is Renoir's ending because I'm such a no matter what you have to live pilled person that to do Miles' ending is to just like to kind of just give up. And like yes, you're in your little happy world
Ignite.
and that's going to be cool, but there are going to be consequences of that you I don't know, that don't seem good. And are there things that you could maybe do about it? Maybe. But at least if you're alive in the real world, yeah, you're disfigured, but like you live in a place that is like there's some kind of weird magic shit going on that you're young. They'll figure something out. Okay, there's hope. There's a reason to keep going and not just give up completely. But also like. That's just for Mael, right? That doesn't say anything for all the painted characters that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Are they real? Are they fake? That's
Because that's
why it's complicated.
Yeah.
the reason it gets so complicated is because I think most people, like you just mentioned, are going to see these endings from the perspective of two characters. It'll be Verso and Mael, and very rarely are they going to look at it from the perspective of the whole party and the whole of the world. Because like I think it is unequivocally better for Mael and / Alicia to have Verso's ending. Like I think that is the only one in which she has a chance at being. Learning to become better. That said, I don't think it's a guarantee. Like Versus ending.
No, it's not guaranteed. It depends
I'll
what
put
she
that
does.
as one of the
Real life.
things.
Yeah, it gives her a chance to grow and improve.
Yes.
I'll put the thing I wrote down about like in my huge list of notes about these endings. Versus sees life in ultimatums, and the tragedy of his ending is that he's right at that point. Like maybe not at all the other points where the ultimatum of like, oh, I have to kill Gustav and oh, I have to do all this stuff. He wasn't right in those, but at the point of his ending, he's correct that Mael would make the choice to stay in the painting probably forever. The only one who could potentially convince her to leave, I think, would be Gustav. And Gustav's back, but does he know? Right?
That's another thing.
Like...
How much of this has been explained to Gustav? Does he know that Mael's a god now? How much does he know about, oh, are they in a painting?
Yep.
Did she explain that to him? If she didn't explain it to him, is one of the other party members going to let it slip eventually?
And that's the thing, too, of, like, the reason I pointed out Gustav beckoning in Miles' end, where she sees, or not Miles' end, versus end, and she sees them all fade away, being possibly a hint towards suicidal thoughts, is that something that a lot of people will forget at the start of the game. Gustav almost kills himself. He raises a gun to his forehead and only stops because Lune is there too. And so I think there was an intentional bit of like a dark reading there that was left here to kind of echo that, even though I don't think that's what they're implying, but I think it is meant to be there as a like draw to be like, this isn't a universally happy ending. Not all the things people are doing. And the thing that gets me is that the one that really gets me is Mael just staring and hugging her chest in that bit at the end, which is like, I think functionally, yeah, at that point Mael's dead. You've killed Mael and now Alicia's here. Whether or not that's better, who knows? Because if you look at like the events that happened in their lives, Mael was probably a more sympathetic and empathetic person than Alicia is, because Alicia has grown up with this feud between painters and writers, losing her brother, her family not really paying attention to her. And so you end up in this scenario where, like, Alicia seeing everyone in the painted world as not real means she has a worse outlook on life, functionally. And all this other interesting stuff. Like, in that ending, you see her family there, but none of them are near her or offer her a word of comfort or anything.
No one's comfort. Yeah, she's just hugging the Esquier doll.
She's just hugging Esquier in the corner. Clea, like, looks over and then leaves, as she does in the rest of the game, functionally. And then her parents also just, like, look at each other and then leave. And so you have this whole situation where it's clear that Alicia's home life is crazy.
Yeah.
There's also a quote that we could attribute to you, Ryan, where you were talking about, like the fact that this media does not, tell you what to think or tell you an answer. It asks you the question.
Yeah, so that was the whole thing I was talking about with you, which, like, I'm not the only one to have had that opinion, but my thing is, and, like, the reason that I will refuse to say which of these endings I quote-unquote prefer is because I don't think the intention of the writers is for you to look at them as preferring one, but instead to look at them as two sides of the same problem, right? Like, the game itself is going, here's what happens in these events, what do you think, right? Like, what is the thing that resonates with you, and the conversation that these two endings create with each other and with the person playing them. Because as Brett had kind of alluded to earlier, there's also a viewing of this where if you kind of remove yourself from the literal events of the game, it's now a kind of escapism and experiencing the real world justification, but it's within a video game, which is inherently escapist. So you have this whole, like, circular thing of, like, if the game is criticizing escapism, is it criticizing escapism, or is it criticizing escapism with no end, right? Is it, what of these things is this going for? Because the thing to remember here is that, like, this dev team is insane. Most of them in the initial team are people that are not necessarily first-time game developers, but first-time, like, indie studio heads or, like, releases. They often had worked on various different things. Like, the art director had been, like, an event coordinator and a artist on the side and stuff like this.
The main writer was trying to be one of the voice actors first, right? As well.
Yeah, she got a job at the studio for voice acting because from seeing a Reddit post about a free, like, voice acting thing, she was just like, "Oh, it seems interesting. I'll offer." And then she became the lead writer over the course of working there.
And then finding, like, the main, oh my god, what's his name? Not orchestrator. The main musician, composer.
Yeah.
On what was it? SoundCloud?
Yeah.
I think,
like, forum.
It was some forum, so it might have been Reddit. There's a lot of Reddit in this game's creation.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Jennifer Svedbergen is the one I watched a lot of interviews with her going through this, and I'll read a quote out from her that is, like, why I'm so strongly opinionated in that there is a duality of these endings, and you can't really have one without the other. Is that she, in one of these interviews, directly said, at the end, you're not sure who's right. They both have a point, and that's the problem. They both have a point. Now, it's not that one is wrong or one is right. And then she went on to say a bunch of things about the characters, like Verso is a representation of her imposter syndrome and duality, and then Renoir is her inner Chinese mom, which I think is hilarious and great. And yeah, you just have this really interesting bit of here, because I don't think at any point is this game trying to say that, like, escapist media is bad. I think what it's trying to say is just, like, here's all these different perspectives. Where do you fall? Like, what do you think? It's a game that's not trying to make a statement. It's trying to ask a question and, like, ask what you as a player feel about these things. And to me, that's why it works so well, because in so many other games, you would have everyone just be like, oh, one ending's better than the other. And there's a little bit of that with the Verso ending and people going, like, that a lot of people prefer that. But I think it's also those people are just not looking at it from a perspective of, from all these different perspectives. They're seeing it from the perspective of Mael.
Like, come on, dig a little deeper. Engage with the media fully.
It's hard to view one as correct because of that. We're like, yeah, for Mael, I think it is correct that, like, the Verso ending is probably better. But Mael's not the only person in this story, right? Like, it's a party-based JRPG.
Most likely sentient people.
And so you end up with this crazy web of whether or not these endings are good. But I think the thing you see with this is that there's not really, like, hard agreement. In a lot of other games, you'll have things like a true ending, right? Where it's like, this is the ending that is universally the best one, or is intended to be the best one. And in this, you just don't. Like there's not something that we could refer to as a true ending. It's instead just here's what happens. Right? Like how do you feel about it? And it works super well because of that. And yeah, I think it's the reason why like this is going to be a hard game to talk about with Game of the Year, because I'm bringing this up now because we can't have this conversation for obvious reasons in the Game of the Year episode.
We cannot.
We just can't talk about it like this. Which means like, so I had played Hades 2 right before this, and Hades 2 became my Game of the Year. I was like, I really liked Hades 2. It was basically a 10 in every category for me, with the minor bit of the ending in Hades 2 being a little bit just out of nowhere. Not even bad, just like very quick compared to the rest of the game. Then I played this the week after and hit the Act 2 point, because I'd already hit Act 1 while I was playing Hades 2. I was like playing this on the side and hit the Act 1 point, and was like, okay, this just got way better in my mind because of what they just did. Then you hit the Act 2 point and you're like, this is one of the ballsiest things I've seen a developer attempt to pull. Yeah. And then you hit the end of Act 3 and you're like, well, they did it, right? Like they pulled all of it off. At no point was I not fully invested in this, and there's just not. There are so few games that I can say that about. This made me add a category to my infinite gamer chart branch called the peak of the chart.
Web grows.
And granted, it's the peak of the chart. It's not the only game in the peak. There's a few others. There's Yakuza 0. There's Final Fantasy 14's Endwalker and Shadowbringers expansions, and then Oblivion. And Oblivion is for very specific reasons that I don't think it's as good of a game as the rest of these here, as most people would probably agree with. But Oblivion, it's one of those few games that, like, Oblivion is nostalgia bias for sure, but it's also just no one's replicated it. So fair
enough.
Until someone does it better, it's up there. So yeah, you end up with this just crazy scenario of this being a game that I think is one of the few games that everything it aims for, it succeeds at. Like the only other games I feel similarly to this too are things like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, which is an insane game to bring up in context to Expedition 33.
Wow.
But like the reason I say that is because Metal Gear Rising knows what it is so much and fully just commits to it, even if it isn't always great. That you end up in this scenario because it nails it the whole time, where you just buy into the game's own hype. But Expedition 33 is just a better game. In a lot of ways, and is just more well put together, and the story of the team is so fascinating. There's just a lot here that makes me very excited to see what the next thing the studio does is, whether or not it's another Clair Obscur, or if it's something related. Because like, what would a sequel look like? Right? Is it gonna be that we pick up with one of the characters that we've met from the Dissandras, and it's a game about one of them? Because I could see that, but at the same time, that's hard to do because you'd probably have to address what happened in this game somehow as either like a choice at the start of the game, like what happened when you played Expedition 33, or it needs to deal with things that are separate enough that it wouldn't overlap.
Yeah. God, at some point, like I'm incredibly comfortable not knowing anything about the writers. I'd love to see what they do as like major gameplay systems if you were to be a writer.
My thing is that like the setting of Clair Obscur, not Expedition 33, which Expedition 33 I would say is like the painted world of this, right? Like that's the in setting thing. Clair Obscur seems to be the overall like setting they're going for with the Dissandras. And I think there's so many, even just raising the idea that there's like these painters doing this, or the writers doing their own thing. You have so many options for what another game in this setting would look like, that I think it would be really fascinating to get another one. And I kind of hope they do, but at the same time, like I'll play whatever Sandfall makes after this. Like it doesn't matter if it's a sequel or not. But I do think they've like spoken to they intend to make something else in the Clair Obscur franchise, quote unquote.
I think so.
Or at least they intend to make it a franchise. So whether or not it's a franchise in the terms of like Final Fantasy, they're not actually connected, or they're going to use the Dissandra world as like the real world of Clair Obscur is that Dissandra level stuff, and that's going to be like where we set these other stories. Who knows? Because yeah, I could certainly see. I think the character that I'm most interested in seeing if they do a sequel of a follow up on is Clair. To me, is like the one that we know very little about Clair from this game, and her like active war with the writers is so clearly an easy gameplay hook for something.
Oh
yeah. But yeah,
You know what
it's
I'd really
fascinating.
like for a physical special edition? I'd really love one of her Nevron sculptures that you can find in one of the mansion rooms.
Yeah, there's so many interesting things here. All right, well that's our Expedition 33 thing. Any thoughts that we didn't
Oh
get to that we want to mention?
God, I'd love to do another episode of this where we can just fully dive into dissecting the lyrics of all the music.
I need to listen.
Yes.
I need to listen to them.
Oh my God, it's
Yeah, there's some
so
great
good.
translations available of what the music means, and some of them are also like openly admitted by the translators, like, "Hey, this song either means nothing or is written simultaneously in English, French, Japanese, Latin, and Spanish at the same time, and German, and goes and switches between them mid sentence for these words." Because they translated it into those sets of languages with like the repeated words, and it did form a functional sentence that made sense. But otherwise, it's nonsense. So, like, we just don't know if this is a.
Oh, sorry.
That was it.
But yeah, like also about the music, there you also see like interviews with them talking about French players who are playing it because the music that is still completely in French is completely in French in the French version. So it's just like, oh, maybe they were paying attention to it. Nope, nope. They like there's multiple accounts of people just means like, oh, I just thought it was really pretty music. And then when everything that it was talking about came into focus, I slapped
Mhm.
myself.
Yeah, and I also just want to say this too to leave it in people's minds because there's a bunch of people that seem to dislike Mael based on the events of her ending. She's a 16-year-old girl. I think it is important to
Yeah.
ground all the choices she makes in that.
Not a
She is
single not a single character you play in this game has a brain that is fully formed.
No. She has the misfortune of being the youngest person in the main cast whose life has basically entirely been this.
Been
And if
trauma.
you think if you think that she is stupid, well, I hope that makes you feel
That says a
bad
lot
for
about you.
everyone. It says a lot about you, and I hope you feel bad for everyone who in real life has their entire life be basically just trauma for however long they've been alive, short or long. Because I think the I guess the I don't know if I don't want to say best, but I guess the best way for me to view this game is that everything is metaphorical and allegorical in some way, and it is just a very in-depth breakdown of what
Yeah.
grief and inability to handle all of that does to a family of people that clearly previously at some point had a very loving dynamic with each other that was all ruined by things that happened to them and then
A
their own
tragic event.
actions.
Yeah. And then their handling of said grief. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I think this is a really fascinating game on all those takes of like whether or not you view it as a critique of things like escapism or if you view it as an exploration of how people handle grief or a just literal story of a JRPG, right? Like on every level, it ends up working, which I think is really impressive. Yeah, and there's like bits, there's tiny little gameplay complaints you can make that I guess make sense of like, oh, I wish there was a mini map, and like, I wish there was some ability for me to like go through and see how these areas are a little linear or something. I'm like, none of those things are problems to me. Of
Yeah.
the degree to affect this, the mini map thing is the one I most agree with, but or map it in general in the setting. But like otherwise than that, I don't know. This is a great game. I'm really looking forward to playing whatever else Sandfall makes. That's
I'm
it.
there. I'm
Uh,
there day one.
okay, it's time for
Stupendous.
shoutouts. We
Alrighty.
did the episode discussion, or the game discussion, the second one, and with that, I think this might be our longest discussion of a game, eclipsing The Last of Us
Surprised.
2. Because the only other 2 episode one we did was Last of Us Part 2. We had 2 episodes on that, and this is now our other 2 episoder. So
Alrighty. I would suggest that I go last so that you can cut me off if you feel like it. So if any of
I
you
want
want
to.
to
I
go
love
first.
the start of that sentence.
That's a
Alex.
really awesome lead-in.
So
Super awesome lead-in,
the
isn't it?
preempt that I'm gonna have to cut you off.
Just incredible.
To
Um,
make it.
I have, against everybody's wishes, for me to play and do other things. I have started playing a game on the PS3 called Resonance of Fate. that is famous for, if anything, having a combat system that will make you. It's harder than learning a new language, probably,
But it's so
because
cool.
it is really cool and it's really fun. And even though I'm kind of, I hesitate to say that I get it because every so often, like something will just happen and my 20-foot tall column of easily breakable plates and cups and knives and spoons that I've started to hold in real life all comes tumbling down on top of me, and I get so mad that I have to stop playing. But it is really cool. It's really awesome. They make you run in the straight line and you jump in the air and you shoot at people. But then you die in 1 second, and it's how did they make a game like this? I don't know, but it's on Steam, I
It's
guess, if you're
fascinating.
free.
Yeah, it's also weird. The story's not that good.
The story isn't great, but the characters are very.
The characters
fun,
are really good.
and
Yeah, it's fascinating. Residence of Fate is a great one. All right, I gotta shout out a game that a lot of people are shouting out right now, but I have to do it because I need to eat my dinner and eat my vegetables and apologize for what I've said in the past about extraction shooters. I really like Arc Raiders. It's a problem. That said, I am still a person that vastly prefers PvE games or full PvP. I like one or the other. I don't mixing them together doesn't always work for me. Arc Raiders, the community is great so far. It's really fun. I just want a duos queue. Just give me a duos queue, and I'll be perfectly happy. Because we can't convince anyone else to be our third. That's a problem. But yeah, it's really, really fun. I do have a couple of minor things. Still not a fan of Embark's whole AI policy. Very strange, leaning on AI stuff specifically for voice acting in a way that I think is noticeably kind of bad when the characters talk. So don't love that. I also I would take a PvE mode. I know that's gonna get pitchforks up. I'd take one. I wouldn't be that upset if we didn't get one. Big things do OQ, but I do think this game would work as a PvE game in a way that a lot of other extraction shooters want or don't. I think it would work here in a cool way of I kind of just want gigantic arc boss fights. Just load me into a match that is just a fight with a queen and everyone's fighting the queen and it's a fully PvE thing. I think would be super fun. So, all right, that's my Arc Raiders bit. Alex.
Alrighty, cool.
The fact that you keep warning me how long this is going to take is really...
All right, so tying back to when we were talking about Final Fantasy earlier, I picked up a little something at a game shop near me, and we're going to be doing another one of these, baby, now that I have a camera.
I see, okay.
Alrighty, so let's open. I really dig the design on the pack, even though it's mostly white. It's like a very cool sheen to it, and we got Cloud up front. Okay, let's tear
Alex,
into
I see. The great thing is because you can't really see this on my camera, you can kind of see it right over there. I've got two boxes of I gotta move my chair away. There's two white boxes underneath this. Those are two boxes of Final Fantasy Play boosters that I haven't opened. That are sitting over there.
Ooh, okay. Now. Here's the thing that I wonder, because some card games do this, some don't. I don't know what Magic Steel is. Because I've never played a physical card game of Magic before. I'm wondering if I'm gonna get shiny or holographic cards in this at all, or if there's just that chance.
So that's
it's a booster.
You'll get some cool stuff probably, but you probably won't get the good stuff because the very cool things these these are all in the collector boosters, which is obscene that they exist. I think they should be discontinued as a product and gotten rid of because Magic is obscenely expensive, and the only thing I bought is the Final Fantasy set in the last 10 years because I like Final Fantasy too much and went too hard on it. But the collector boosters that have all the cool art treatments, those are going to run you about $60 each.
Oh god.
Baseline, they're probably more expensive now.
Oh
boy. For your little shiny paper.
Damn. I just like collecting the art. That's what I like finding all these little card game boosters for that I have no intention of playing at all whatsoever. Okay. Now I also don't really see there doesn't seem to be as big of an emphasis on what cards are rare or not, because I don't see with the Gundam cards there wasn't that common, uncommon, rare, LR plus whatever deal with them.
Oh, Magic does have that. It's the
Oh, they do?
Yeah, you got to show the camera your cards.
Why would they do that?
Now, Ryan, Alex specifically told me that the quote-unquote funny bit of this would be to not show the camera. So I'm going to go do something productive with my life, like eat or like, I don't know, like have sex or something, and you guys can keep talking about your cards that you're not going to show to the camera. All right?
Alex, show the camera your cards.
I mean, if I have to.
You're literally just looking at the floor.
Oh, damn. My bid is collapsing before my eyes.
Your bid's being declared over because it's
not. Your bid needs to be good in the first place.
We're painting your bid over right now. Okay.
I mean, bro, your bid wouldn't even be allowed on the stage in the first place. Man.
Your bid's getting gamaged.
Damn. Well, with my bid getting gamaged, we have hero, token creature.
Yeah, so that's token. That doesn't have a rarity.
Okay.
Cards will summon those.
Barren Airship Kingdom, land, town, already getting shiny. So I think do they front load the shiny cards, I guess?
So Magic has cards have like weights to them. So you're always going to get like a token or an advertisement card. So you got a token. Okay. After that, you're usually going to get a guaranteed foil of some kind. That can be, generally speaking, any card in the set, but is, of course, because of the weightings of things, weighted towards the common cards. And then you'll have the regular pack, which will be like a bunch of common cards, a handful of uncommons, a small number of rares, and possibly a mythic. Which you'll see on the card in the middle, there's like a badge on the
I
left.
saw it. There's, on the back of the hero card, there's also a wizard.
Yeah, that's another token, because the tokens are double-sided generally, so you can use them as either, because you don't put those in a deck. Those
on the back of the Baron Airship thing, there's just the regular back there.
Yeah, the card back.
Yeah, the card back.
I love that you're doing this having never played Magic or having any context.
That's what I think makes these so special.
He doesn't know anything about Final Fantasy either.
Also speaking about Final Fantasy VII, look at that cool pose we have Sephiroth in this.
Oh, hey, well that's relevant because we talked about that scene.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
Very cool.
Sephiroth's. Oh, it's Sephiroth's Intervention is the name of the card.
Yeah, that's where he kills you. Destroy
target creature, you gain 2 life.
Yeah, because
not to be taken lightly, Cloud.
Right. You didn't say it sultrily or gaily enough.
Yeah, there needs to be a lot of undertones that we weren't getting from that. Take it again.
All right. Fate is not to be taken lightly, Cloud. I also don't know what
closer.
You mean British.
He's a little too British, but still good.
What's Sephiroth's accent? I mostly just heard him as.
His accent is emo. That's what
he just goes. Good to see you, twink. And kills you.
All right, the bits run its course. I think that's the end of the show.
We have Jill. Shiva's dominant.
It's
over. We're gonna hit this button, Alex. You have until the end of the theme song to get whatever.
All right, cool. Ooh, side quest. Play Blitzball.
Oh hell yeah!
Do not play Blitzball.
No, play so much Blitzball, dude. It's great.
Do not play Blitzball.
Poo UFO. That's really fun.
Yeah.
The Crystal's Chosen. That's a fun little group. Realm Sketching.
It's over.